Hey fellas, a lot of you might remember the mod we did to protect the fan in the Tijen MFU because those, especially the IR tanks, they have a lot of wires hanging down in between the turret and the hull, and as you rotate the turret or elevate the gun, uh, if one of those wires comes in contact with that fan, it makes a god-awful noise, you know. And it is a pretty good adrenaline rush when you hear your tank start to screech. Makes your heart beat fast. But anyway, when I first did the mod, it was kind of crude, so I found some pretty good ways to improve it. I started with this, which is just your standard evergreen styrene tubing that you can get at any hobby shop. This is the 1/8 OD. That's 0.125. I think it's 3.2 millimeter. Um, Evergreen says that 5 of them should cost you $3.59, and that's for 5 rods 14 inches long. So that's pretty cheap, $3.59 US. And I found that these fit absolutely perfect in your Tijen MFU. So what I do is I stick one down in there, and then I just kind of mark it where it's at. And then I can take a number 11 blade. I don't know how well this is going to show up on the camera, if you guys can see past my fat fingers. And if you just kind of roll it back and forth like that, you got to be careful or else it'll go pop and fly right across the room. Usually it'll just cut right off like that. Okay, and now you've got a little insert that we're going to glue into there, and that's what we're going to put our screw in. And the reason that we're using this insert is because if you're like me and you got a few tanks and you've been doing it for a little while, I mean, I've only been in it like a year and a half, but you start to accumulate these burnt out smoke units. Now if you take your magnetic screwdriver and remove the screws that hold the cap down, that's these, and they're absolutely perfect. They fit right down inside that tube. Once you cut the initial thread, they're just fine. So what I like to do is I'll find a decent screw, and I'll take just one, and I'll just screw it in there a little bit with my hand. That gives me a little handle to hold it by. And then I get my super glue, and this will probably go off camera, but I just put a drop on the glass top on my table. You guys can use whatever method you desire. Cap up the glue. Alright, then I just dip that end of the rod in the super glue just a little bit. And this is hard to do with the camera in the way, but then you just stick it down in there. Alright, see, I didn't get that one pushed all the way, but that's okay. I'll show you how to fix that. Give it a few seconds to let the super glue set up. Twist your screw off. And then you can take a hobby knife and just pare it down. I'm not even really going to try it from here because I got the camera in the way. But you get the idea. You pare it down until it's even, okay? And then when you get done with 4 of them, I got a unit prepared. There's one that's already got 4. And what I like to do is the first time out, I give it about, a few minutes to make sure the super glue is nice and set up. And then I'll take one of the screws, and it'll follow that hole. Just be gentle with it and try to hold it straight up and down, and it'll follow that hole right down in there. And I'll run it all the way down and all the way back, and that's kind of like tapping that hole. I just put some little threads in the plastic. And then you remember we used the cooking screen, and I'm really sorry, I can't remember who gave me the great idea, but that wasn't mine. One of the guys on the forum said get one of those cooking screens, and I did. And I cut it up into squares. I prepared a few. The only reason that this one looks so dark is just my old buddy hit it with the black. That makes it I just didn't like the way it looked in silver. So anyway, I've cut it to the width, all right, and then I've given it about 1/8 of an inch on each end extra. Okay, so it hangs over about 1/8 inch at each end. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a reason for that, and we'll get to it in just a second. So I've got it centered on there. And really, these are so easy. All you've got to do is basically, if I can do it from behind the camera, you just set your screw down above the hole and just twist it. And this screen is so malleable, it'll just start running right down in there. Doesn't have to be, 20 foot-pounds of torque or anything on there. We're just holding a stupid little screen in place. So then I go to the next one. You just set it on there close in any one of them holes. It'll find its way. And like I said, it'll just follow that thread that you already cut. Run it down in there. 2 more to go, guys. Ow! Am I getting nervous here? A little stage fright? Maybe. Should I have elevator music playing in the background? Old Rodney Dangerfield tapes telling jokes to keep you guys entertained while I run these dumb screws down. I wouldn't bore you like this, but there is a reason. There'll be a payoff as soon as I get this last screw in. Okay, now you not only don't want the wires touching your fan, you don't want your protective screen touching the fan either, and that's why. Now I can't guarantee how this will work with all cooking screens, but I found that with mine, if you leave that hanging over, first it'll bend over really easy, and I don't know if this is showing up on the camera, but as I bend that over, it's actually making the rest of the screen bow up just a tiny little bit, and that way I know I've got clearance in between my screen and my fan. That was a little leftover gook from the smoke unit. And that's one thing I really like about these screens, is that they're really malleable. But when you bend it down over like that, it does create a little bow just to, make sure that you're not touching. And that's all there is to it. And now you've got a nice, fairly decent looking screen protecting your fan. I know from experience it provides plenty of airflow. It looks like it's solid, but if you blow through one of these things, you can definitely tell that it gets a lot of airflow. So there you go, guys. That's the latest on the Protect Your Fan, and that'll keep those wires out of your fan, especially in the IR tanks. I hope I didn't bore you too much. See you next time.